Hello and good morning or good afternoon, my friends. This is Hina, and I'm on Gilgamesh server. I'm actually going to try to create a mini guide for initial rotation for those out there who are new or thinking of being a Dragoon main. I've been a Dragoon for about a little bit over 9 months now, and there's been many rotations that's talked about initial and during and parsing for a couple minutes for the rotation to last at least 3 to 4 minutes on a certain DPS. But that's not to be worried about until much later. So now I'm actually going to go through an initial process that I usually go through, because recently in Duty Finder I found that when we see melees, and I usually go tank or healer, hence quick Q. But when I see melees, especially Dragoons, a lot of people don't actually even use heavy thrust or this full C2 rotation, and I know that's okay, but some bosses actually do need some sort of DPS to be able to pass them. Some bosses have mechanics such as DPS checks, etc. So I just want to go through my initial burst and see if that can help some people out. First, I'm going to go over a little bit of my gear. I know I'm extremely overcapped for accuracy, so please don't mind that for a while. I'm going to upgrade them once I cap on Poetics. So I have eye level 121 with a high elegance spear. Unfortunately, the Dragoon spear hasn't dropped for me. So first, I always tell people there's a couple of cross-class skills that you probably want to put on there. One is internal release, gives you a 10% buff for crit rate. Mercy stroke to finish off the mob when the HP is below 20%. Blood for blood, second wind, and foresight is always used when healers having trouble healing you and you want to buff yourself up and prepare for damage. Now, a little bit of the rotation and what should be kept on and what should be kept off. Heavy thrust should be always started with heavy thrust just because it gives you a 15% damage increase, and as melee your main purpose is to create damage. So first start off with heavy thrust, then your initial rotation should be God, what is this called? Impulse drive. It's been so long. Impulse drive, disembowel, and chaos thrust. Then it tells you to go into true thrust, vorpal thrust, and full thrust. That should be your initial rotation. However, in between actions, you can also turn on buffs. So I'm gonna go over my initial burst real quick and show you exactly what that's like. It's a little bit quick. Please don't mind it. But because it's quick, it actually gives me the most damage for the initial burst. So here we go. I'll explain it in a little bit. So in between actions, I'm actually activating my cooldowns, which gives me a lot more for what my buffs are supposed to give me if I was to use them after my action is done. Alright, there we go. That's my initial rotation. It's fairly easy. A couple things again to keep on. The reason why I'm actually using blood for blood versus heavy thrust, and I didn't renew my heavy thrust on the second round, is actually because blood for blood allows me to do more damage than heavy thrust would, and it was about to fall off and I was about to have a full thrust. So of course I would be choosing blood for blood over heavy thrust. Sorry for the background noise, if you can hear them. So what I usually do is heavy thrust, which increases the damage by 15, the internal release, which increases my crit rate, then go into impulse drive, leg sweep, and if you're doing it right and plugging it in right in time, your leg sweep should be able to renew by the second true thrust rotation. So your impulse drive, leg sweep, disembowel, blood for blood, and when I plug it in there and I'm not renewing full thrust, your heavy thrust, your full thrust on the second round should still have blood for blood on. Or you should be doing full thrust on the second round and your blood for blood should always fall off afterwards. And another thing that I found really useful is that power surge, phlebotomize, then jump. That always plugs it in almost perfectly, or power surge for heavy thrust and jump. So you should be always plugging in an action between buffs, which your cooldowns, which should give you more damage over time than if you were not using your cooldowns. That's on single target and often used in second call Bahamut turn 8. So that actually really helps because it's on single target. And like I said, this initial rotation is right now known to be, or calculated, no matter how I play with it, calculated to give out the most burst damage in the first few seconds, or first 20 seconds-ish. Now, final thing I'm actually going to talk about is Invigorate. Invigorate gives you TP, and a lot of times when you don't mind your TP, you're going to run out of it if your skill speed is too high, or you're just not, you're just on a single target for a really long time. What I found helpful was that since Invigorate gives you back 500 TP, and your TP regenerates 60 every second, what you can do is when you're going through your rotation, you can watch your TP for when it hits 440. So when you are putting back 500 TP into 440, it gives you 940. Then it automatically regenerates 60 TP per second, so it gives you 1,000. And that actually, if you're following your CT rotation correctly, that should actually give you your Invigorate back, and it should be over on the cooldown once your TP reaches about 400 again. So that way you can continue your rotation without any problems. As far as I've calculated, for over about 10 minutes. Because when you're going into a single target such as T8, the avatar, you are constantly as melee on a single target, except if you're handling mechanics. So this can help new Dragoons or people that want to learn the Dragoon rotation and don't know what fits them the best. Some people like to turn on Blood for Blood before internal release or Blood for Blood before leg sweep. This is what I found to be the easiest, and for me, I don't really even use my camera anymore when I do this. And since I start on the side on flank, it's just because before a patch, they actually require the heavy thrust to be on the side of the boss, on the flank side of the boss. So you'll see me do that a lot. And hope everybody enjoys the video, and happy FF!